Welcome back into OneSoccer. Today, the Canadian women back on home soil for the first time since 2019. Also, obviously, for the first time since winning gold at the Tokyo Olympics. Their celebration tour kicked off Saturday in Ottawa. A nice 5-1 victory over New Zealand, who opened up the scoring. Jessie Fleming, how'd she do it? Penalty kick. How fitting. Christine St. Clair also scored. Nichelle Prince and then Adriana Leon with the brace. So that's how it ends up 5-1. They play again on Tuesday. This time they will be playing in Montreal, still against New Zealand. Ollie, what are you expecting from this rematch? What would you like to see?
I got a little checklist. I'll go through it. Firstly, I'd like to see Jordan Heitzmer get a start.
She's sit back and relax and listen.
Sounds good. Yeah. Jordan Heitzmer is 21 next year. I think now is the time. This is the time that she's got to become a real, important piece in this Canadian women's national team if she's going to live up to that potential that we all think she has. I thought she was very bright off the bench in Ottawa. There was real kind of purpose to her that maybe we haven't seen so much before. So I'd like to see her get a start and continue that. I'd like to see Gabby Carl at left back. I think she's someone who, again, has the potential to break into the starting lineup when you're looking at players just kind of on the periphery right now that could challenge for places in the near future. And I also think the midfields, I think there's a situation that maybe we don't want to talk about, but we should talk about, which is Desiree Scott, right? Like, she's come out openly and said, retirement is something that she's thinking about. She's not decided yet. But we need to be prepared for that eventuality if and when it comes. And so, having a few different looks in midfield, a bit of rotation in there, trying some different options, I think that's something that Bev Priestman needs to plan and prepare for. And I think that's everything I've got on my list. So I'll pass it over to Wheels.
Gareth, where's your list?
Sorry. Is Ollie still talking?
That's my checklist.
That was
done.
boring. God. I'd hate to see what your Christmas list looks like. It's that awful. Socks.
I'll send
Give
it
me
to you.
Socks. Give me some.
You are so
Anyways.
bad.
What, Ollie or me?
Does Wheels have an answer here, or is he trying to kill time?
Mine's very simple. Go on and smash New Zealand. They're a second-rate club. I can't believe that their team, I can't even believe they're actually in the Olympics. They offered nothing. And this is the 23rd ranked team in women's football. That just shows you kind of the difference between top teams and the never has been or never wills in the women's game. There's just this massive gap there. So you scored 5 goals. That's great. Go on and get 6. Go on and get 7. I love the brashness. I love their confidence on the weekend. I love how they were looking for more goals. And now I think there's an acceptance. There's always been a belief, but now there's an acceptance among this group that they should be absolutely steamrolling tier 2 teams like that. So I want to see more of that. Maybe even score a couple more goals on Tuesday night.
So win. Great.
Yeah, New Zealand. Yeah, they are joint hosts, as we know, with Australia for the 2023 World Cup. They're going to have to try and get it together, that's for sure. But who do you want to see next to Buchanan, Gareth, when you're looking at that center back position? Do you want to see Gilles or do you want to see Zadorsky?
If you're going to just play with the 4 at the back, 2 center backs, then it's Vanessa Gilles. But honestly, I'd like to see maybe Bev Priestman try 3 at the back. I think that we saw some interesting things on the weekend that can be applied going forward, namely Janine Beckie playing down that right-hand side in a fullback position. I'm not sure if she can play that high against better competition, but you can if you play in a back 3. I imagine if you have the 3 at the back, Buchanan, Gilles, and Zadorsky, and then you have Lawrence and Beckie as your attacking wingbacks or fullbacks. Looks good to me. Couple ball winners in the middle of the park. And Scott, Quinn, and then you can kind of unleash your attacking players, give them a little bit more freedom. But I think the way forward and the next iteration of this team is them being much more clinical, much more decisive, playing down the wings. I think we saw that especially with Janine Beckie in on all 5 goals on Saturday.
Yeah, and I find when it comes to Ashley Lawrence, all we keep trying to do is push her up the pitch. So let's try this conversation once again with Janine Beckie playing at fullback. Ollie, where is Lawrence best deployed?
Oh, I think it would be in midfield. Firstly, I don't think Janine Beckie is always going to play right back. I think it's something that definitely makes sense in games like opponents like New Zealand. I'm not sure whether I'd still do it if they're playing against the United States or someone like that, but certainly it's a good option to have, and I think Lawrence goes into midfield. The question is who comes out of the midfields, because I think that three of Scott, Quinn and Fleming has worked quite well. Again, I think you need to prepare for a future without Desiree Scott. I think right now she is something of a safety blanket in terms of what she gives in terms of protecting the back four, but also covering Quinn and Fleming, where those two feel very comfortable, I think, playing a bit in front of her. So that's something where when Scott comes out, the balance is going to change a little bit, and how you fit Lawrence in. Again, who comes out, if it's Quinn, if it's Scott, how that all fits together is something that I think Canada still needs to figure out, and that's going to take a few matches, a few camps. So it's disappointing actually that Ashley Lawrence isn't here for this one, because that's something that would be very useful to experiment with in this game.
Mm-hmm. Adriana Leon has been great coming off the bench, right? She's provided energy, she's scored some goals as well, and as I had mentioned, picked up a brace in that game. But Gareth, do you think she's done enough to become a regular starter?
She could. Is it in the best interest of the team, though? Because it seems like in the pecking order for those wide positions, either to the left or to the right of Christine Sinclair, it's Beckie, it's Prince, it's Rose, and then Leon would be part of the kind of secondary equation, and that's okay, because I think she's very effective coming off the bench. I think she can play dropping a little bit deeper. She adds perhaps a little bit more quality inside the area as well. 22 goals for country now. I think she's a very useful player, but I think that the way that Sinclair plays now, and the pace and the ability to get in behind the back line that Prince and Rose and Beckie provide, I think it's a little bit different than what Adriana brings, and I think that's okay if she's kind of the super sub, the player that comes in to change the game off the bench.
Well, that's the thing, is that role, in the number 10 role that Christine Sinclair plays, I think is very good for Adriana Leon. I think she fits quite well there, but if that is going to be the role for her, she's always going to be second fiddle to Christine Sinclair, right? Like, it's going to be really difficult to get in the starting lineup in that position. But you need a bench, you need players who can come on and make an impact. I'm sure she would like to be in the starting lineup, but I think for now, the best role for her is making an impact in the final stages of games where she has been quite effective this year.
Who would you say, Ollie, is the most important player on this team right now?
It's Kadisha Buchanan. For me, it has to be Lawrence or Buchanan. And I know you can say, well, you take Buchanan out and ZADORSKY comes back in, and that's a very good option. But I just think Buchanan's on another level, right? She's a world-class player, one of the, probably small number, to be honest with you, of truly world-class players in this team in their respective positions. And I think as much as the Canadian defence without her would still be competent, I find it really difficult to believe that they could have gone through the Olympic run they went through, the opponents they played, the amount of clean sheets they kept, if Kadisha Buchanan is not back there leading that back line. I think she's world class, and the team is, despite the defensive depth, the team would really miss her.
Yeah, I get that sentiment. Not sure I entirely agree. I think that Ashley Lawrence is the best player on this team, but it's a two-headed monster in terms of who are the most important players. And that's Janine Beckie and Jessie Fleming. Because these are two players, unlike anyone else in the team, that kind of can create and make the players around them better by superior distribution, whether it's crossing the ball, whether it's attacking prowess. Both players have tons of legs. It seems like they can just run and run and run. They're tone setters in this Canadian women's national team. So I look at those two players right now as being the most critical to the game-to-game form of the Canadian women.
Well, the players in Canada Soccer set the tone before that match against New Zealand, gentlemen, because Canada Soccer actually put out a statement pledging commitment to a safe environment for the athletes. And one of the things that they also pledged was to launch a third-party investigation into former Whitecaps and national team head coach Bob Berarda, who is facing 9 sex-related charges. He'll be in court October 28th. Ollie, what did you make of that statement?
It's a good thing, obviously. I give the players a lot of credit because I think, firstly, they didn't just put out a statement to kind of acknowledge things and, show their awareness, but they actually made demands, right? They said this is the action that needs to happen if we're really going to start to put this right and set things right within this program and within women's soccer as a whole. So a lot of credit for that. And I think also from what we've been hearing by the sounds of it, they're also willing to say, this has to happen. If we're going to play games for this team, if we're going to represent this program, go on this celebration tour, we want this to really be taken action on. So it's good that Canada Soccer has, agreed to do that, obviously, has very quickly agreed to meet all those demands. And now I'm looking forward to seeing, the specifics of that and how that unfolds and how they follow through on delivering that. But all credit to the players for the position they took at a time where it would have been very easy for them to just, have praise lavished on them and not really think about something like this. They did the right thing.
Yeah, Christine St. Clair saying it's time to use their voices, and they'll also be keeping an eye on how things unfold with that investigation.